Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Paul Aguilar, host of the Truth Defender podcast. I really appreciate you guys stopping in for this new segment that we're going to be trying out today. I wanted to start this segment where I actually read back stories that I received from people that listen to the podcast. Stories of high strangeness, stories of UFOs, Bigfoot, paranormal, ghosts, anything you guys got that's of high strangeness, things that you don't see in the mainstream. And then you guys go ahead and send them to me and I can get them on the show. So that's what like the new segment we're going to be doing here today. If you guys want to listen to the podcast, we're still going to be doing that as well. The podcasts are, I'm trying to get them up, trying to do like 2 episodes a week. What I want to try to avoid is making videos where it's just myself talking. So I want to be doing videos with guests. That's a little hard to do. So that's why my videos are kind of scattered right now. I put videos together, do podcasts as soon as I get guests. So we got a few of them lined up for this week and next week. That'll be good. The month of November is coming along. We'll have Bishop Larry Gators as well in December coming back on. I'm trying to get him to come on a little sooner than that. Maybe we can do a couple episodes with him before what we had scheduled in December. So that's coming out as well. But like I said, I put podcasts together as soon as I get guests together and they're able to come on. So that's what's going to happen from there. But this is a new segment. I have a bunch of stories from a bunch of people that sent them in to me. Like I said, if you guys want to send me any kind of stories or if you have any kind of requests or comments or anything, you can send them to our email, which is thetruthDefender1776@gmail.com. If you want to get a hold of me some other way, you can find us on Twitter at Defender Podcast, Instagram as well at Truth Defender Podcast, Facebook at Defender Podcast, and we have a Discord as well, which we'll link down below. You can send all your stories that way as well. But the fastest way you can get to us is the email, thetruthDefender1776@gmail.com. So let's get off and get going with our first story of this new segment, which is probably going to end up being called High Strangeness. And like I said, people are going to be sending in stories of experiences they had, UFOs, Bigfoot, Dogman, ghosts, demons, anything you guys got, which is why it's going to be called High Strangeness. So today we have a story by a Mr. Rudy Payan. And this is a story of his family. The main characters in this are going to be his grandparents. So his grandpa, Manuel Payan, and his grandma, Irma. This happened about 40 years ago. So it says August 6th, 1980. So it just came up on 40 years, right? Yeah. So this story takes place here in Texas. You already know I'm here in Dallas, Texas. But they were traveling from Odessa to Mexico for a family emergency. And the story starts off like this. This is a genuine true story, told for the very first time. On August 6, 1980, my grandparents were traveling from Odessa, Texas to Mexico due to a family emergency. They took off at around 11 p.m. on the night of the 5th with their 2 kids, which is his dad and his aunt. My grandpa, along with my grandma's uncle and brother, were riding in the front seat with my grandma and the kids in the back. Between 2:30 and 3 a.m., and south of Marfa, Texas, is when they saw something strange by the Chinati Peak Mountains. They saw what seemed to be a big fire on the ground against the mountain. My grandma asked if it could be illegals trying to stay warm. Her uncle said, "I don't think so. It would catch the attention of law enforcement and eventually get them caught." My grandparents then say that the fire started forming and rising up to the top of the mountains. My grandma screamed, "Look!" That's when they all realized what it was. Fear started to spread throughout the car as what they described to be a tremendously fast spinning disc shaped as if a frisbee was laid on its face with another one on top of it, disc shaped. The disc was about 1.5 miles and about 2 light posts high when it got in front of them, 40 feet high and about 1.5 miles ahead of them. Red and yellow fire colored smoke was raging out from the bottom and from the top. They could feel the force from the disc. It then started to follow them from a distance along the mountains. It would abruptly stop when they stopped and accelerate when they did. At one time, the disc crossed over into the street in front of them. My aunt says it looked big enough to fit a car into it. That's when they all got really scared, and the kids started to cry along with my grandma as she began to pray aloud. They had heard about abductions happening at the time, so they were aware of what could possibly happen. My grandpa, on the other hand, is the bravest man I know and wanted to catch their attention. He pulled off to the side of the road and got off the vehicle with a flashlight. He then tempted and called out for the disc to get closer while pointing the flashlight towards them, saying, "Come on, come on." My grandma got out of the car and took the flashlight and told him to get his ass back in the car. The disc then crossed back over towards the mountains. My grandpa said it moved like a rabbit jumping over weeds. They could see little windows and lights inside, but nobody or nothing controlling it. It made no sound, and they couldn't really see a color due to it being dark. Once my grandparents got back on the road, the disc continued to follow them at a distance. It would go up and down the sides of the mountains. Finally, it went behind one mountain and never came back out on the other side. Approaching the ghost town of Shafter, Texas, is when the disc disappeared. My grandma, still in shock, asked her uncle if it could be witches, but he replied, "You need a whole bunch of witches to make something like that." See, my grandma had to deal with a jealous witch back in Mexico when her and my grandpa first married. But that's a story for another time. They said only one truck passed them throughout the whole incident. It never stopped or slowed down. It just carried on. They weren't sure if the truck had seen it as well, but it didn't seem like it. They had heard about the Marfa lights, but in no comparison was it similar to what they seen. Unfortunately, they have no proof. They did not have a camera at the time. My grandpa worked at a plant for 43 years here in Odessa and finally retired. He tells me that his coworkers would say he was lucky to have been able to see that. Lucky. His coworkers would even try and go to the same spot at around the same time to try and catch it, but no one ever saw it. My grandpa talks about an elderly man who worked at the plant, who told him during World War II there was a base in Marfa. The soldiers on the ground would see the lights and would think it was the Germans coming to attack. The ones on the ground could see it, but the pilots in the planes would report seeing nothing. My grandparents have no reason to lie, and I've known about this story since I was a kid. This is the first time telling it to anyone outside of our circle. My grandpa wishes he could see it again and asks if anyone with a similar story around the same area to please come forward. Thanks again, and much love. Rudy Bayan. Wow. Well, Rudy, that was a great story. Yeah, I've heard a lot about Marfa lights as well. Originally being from El Paso, I've been out there a couple times, and I've heard a bunch of stories from that area as well. I've never seen anything myself, but I do know a lot of people that have some crazy stories about that area as well. It'd be pretty good to have them on as well. Maybe get their stories. But I hope you guys enjoyed that story. And like I said, if you guys have any stories of your own, no matter what it is, High Strangeness is the topic here. Please send that to the truthdefender1776 at gmail.com. Like I said, podcasts will be going out hopefully twice a week. And you can find us on the go as well on Apple, Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify and iHeartRadio. You can find all of our social media linked down below, as well as our PayPal and our Discord. I really appreciate you guys stopping in for a quick sec to catch this great story. Please send yours in if you have them as well. I really appreciate y'all stopping by. Thanks a ton, y'all. Stay blessed and stay frosty.